There is something most people never realize, and it does not lie in what you do, but in what you ignore every day. I spent months analyzing 100 men over 60 with exceptional physical condition, men whose muscle density and movement capacity resemble those in their 30s. What I was looking for was not inspiration, but a biological common denominator that could explain why they did not follow the typical path of aging. Part 1. The moment when every assumption begins to collapse. I examined their diets, their sleep patterns, their training schedules, and even the supplements they used. Each individual had a clearly different approach, with no identical system across all cases. But when the data was placed side by side, something unexpected appeared. A single movement present in every one of the 100 cases. What makes this finding remarkable is not its complexity, but how simple it is. It is not the squat, not the bench press, and not any machine-based exercise in the gym. It is a movement that 95% of men in gyms have never practiced seriously. Part 2. The core mistake in training philosophy for men over 60. For decades, recommendations for older adults have revolved around a single priority: safety, low-impact exercises, manageable intensity, and minimizing risk at all costs. On the surface, this sounds reasonable and even responsible, but the problem is that safe is not the same as optimal. When every program is designed for the weakest and most sedentary version of a person, those capable of more are held back. The body does not improve through comfort. It improves through signals strong enough to force adaptation. The men in this analysis do not train to slow decline. They train to reverse it. That distinction is not small. It is the difference between maintaining function and achieving exceptional performance. And it is this difference that leads them to choose movements that most people ignore. Part 3. The one movement that appears across all data, across 100 men, each from different backgrounds, countries, and training histories. One element remained constant. Every single one of them performed the dead hang. This is a simple movement where you grip an overhead bar and allow your body to hang under gravity. There is no complex technique, no expensive equipment, and it can be performed at home. Yet this simplicity hides a biological effect that most exercises fail to produce. When the body is suspended, the spine, shoulders, and nervous system respond in a fundamentally different way. What is remarkable is that this movement does not target a single system, but multiple systems simultaneously. It is not just an exercise, it is a signal sent to the entire body. And that signal is what the data consistently reveals. Three biological mechanisms working at the same time. When the body hangs under gravity, the spine undergoes natural decompression. The intervertebral discs reabsorb fluid, disc height increases, and pressure on nerve pathways is reduced. This is something many therapeutic systems attempt to replicate, but rarely achieve as effectively. At the same time, grip strength must sustain the entire body weight, creating continuous isometric loading. Large-scale studies have shown that grip strength is directly linked to cardiovascular health and overall mortality risk. It is one of the strongest biological indicators available, yet often neglected in traditional training. Additionally, the shoulders and chest are fully extended, reversing forward, rounding, and tightness. These are commonly interpreted as signs of aging, but they are actually the result of missing movement signals. One movement, three biological effects, all occurring simultaneously. Part 5. Hormonal response and structural adaptation. When the body is placed under sustained traction, the endocrine system begins to respond. The prolonged engagement of the forearms and nervous system produces an acute increase in growth hormone. This plays a critical role in maintaining muscle tissue and recovery capacity. Bone also responds to the direction of force applied. While traditional exercises create compressive forces, the dead hang introduces tensile loading, stimulating bone structure in a different way. The combination of tension and compression is essential for maintaining overall bone density. The spine, which experiences constant compression throughout daily life, is relieved of accumulated pressure. This is not a temporary effect, but a cumulative process when practiced consistently. Over time, this accumulation produces visible structural differences. Part 6. Real data and the 40-second test. Among the 100 men analyzed, most did not train for more than 40 minutes per session. They also did not train every day, typically maintaining 3 to 4 sessions per week. However, 100% performed the dead hang, and most considered it their most important movement. A simple test was used to assess biological condition. Hang from a bar and hold as long as possible until grip can no longer be maintained. The duration reflects the state of muscular, neural, and structural systems. If you exceed 40 seconds, your biological function is operating at a level below your chronological age. If you fall between 20 and 40 seconds, you are within an average range but capable of improvement. If you are below 20 seconds, it indicates accelerated decline beyond the normal rate. Part 7. Practical implementation in daily life. The first step is establishing a baseline by performing one maximum hang each morning. It does not need to reach absolute failure. Only the point where maintaining grip becomes difficult. Recording the time allows for tracking progress over time. Once the duration becomes stable, the next step is transitioning into an active hang. The shoulders are pulled down and stabilized rather than remaining passive. This engages the posterior muscle groups and improves posture and movement control. At a higher level, this can be combined with loaded carries. The transition from tensile loading to compressive loading creates a full spectrum stimulus for both bone and muscle systems. This is how multiple biological systems are trained together. Part 8. What the data is really telling you: the body does not keep what you once had. It keeps what you repeatedly use. When a signal disappears, the function associated with it gradually disappears as well. This is a fundamental principle of physiology that cannot be avoided. The dead hang is not a magical exercise, but a signal the body requires to maintain its structure. The men in the analysis are not doing anything extreme. They are simply maintaining a signal that most people have stopped sending, and that is what creates the visible difference over time. If there is one conclusion to draw from this entire analysis, it is that the body responds to signals, not intentions. When the signal is strong and consistent, change becomes inevitable. And sometimes, the simplest movement is the one you should never ignore. There is a moment that happens quietly, and most people miss it completely. It does not happen when you fail the test, and it does not happen when you feel weak. It happens right after you let go of the bar and tell yourself you will try again tomorrow. That small decision, repeated enough times, is what separates those who maintain their structure from those who slowly lose it. Because the truth is not about knowing what to do. It is about whether you send the signal when it matters. The body does not negotiate. It does not wait for motivation, and it does not reward intention. It only responds to what is consistently applied under real conditions, and this is where almost everyone gets it wrong. They believe improvement comes from adding more exercises, more volume, more complexity. while the data shows the opposite pattern emerging again and again. The men who stayed strong did not chase more. They protected one signal and refused to let it disappear. Right now, you already have your number in your head. You know whether you crossed that threshold or not, and you know exactly how it felt when your grip started slipping. That moment is not random. It is a direct reflection of your current biological state. So here is what matters next. Tomorrow morning, before anything else, you go back to the bar and you do it again. Not because it is difficult, but because it is measurable, and what can be measured can be changed. And here is what I want you to do after that. Come back to this video and write your exact time in the comments. Not an estimate, not a guess, the exact seconds. Because when hundreds of people start posting real numbers, something powerful happens. You stop guessing where you stand, and you start seeing the pattern in real time. But there is something even more important that most people will never notice. The first number you post is not the one that matters. The number that matters is the one you post 7 days from now, after repeating the same signal every single morning without interruption. Because if that number does not change, it tells you something deeper than any advice ever could. It tells you that the signal is still not strong enough or not consistent enough to force adaptation. And that realization is where real change begins. In the next video, I am going to break down 4 daily patterns that determine whether this signal actually converts into visible strength, posture, and long-term resilience, not exercises, but the underlying behaviors that either amplify or completely cancel the effect you are creating here. Subscribe and turn on notifications, because that data connects directly to what you just experienced, and without it, most people stall without ever understanding why. Now do one more thing before you leave. Share this with one person you know who still believes that decline is just part of getting older. Not to convince them, but to give them a measurable way to see the truth for themselves. Because the difference between decline and adaptation is not time, it is whether the signal is present or whether it has already disappeared.